Hi, this is Joel Rosenberg in Jerusalem with All Israel News, and I want to welcome back to All Israel News one of our advisory board members as we begin this new news service, former ambassador of Israel to the United States and former deputy foreign minister of Israel, Danny Ayalon. Danny, thank you so much for joining All Israel News, both on the advisory board and for this opening week of interviews.
Thank you. My pleasure and my honor. You are a great friend.
Thank you very much. We talked yesterday about the challenge between sort of the media warfare, I think as you described it, against, too often, against Israel and against the people who want to make peace in this region, and the odd resistance of the only true full democracy in the Middle East here, and how that has blocked so much peacemaking. And yet, we now have this dramatic, historic development of a peace deal with the United Arab Emirates, first time in more than 25 years. And we've got Israeli delegations from Jerusalem are now on the ground, meeting with their UAE counterparts, working on what we understand to be a September signing of this peace agreement at the White House in Washington. We're awaiting the exact date, at least as you and I record this. Now, you have not only been a key diplomat, both in the Prime Minister's office, working for multiple Israeli prime ministers, and in the foreign ministry, but you've also worked and working now in the Israeli private sector, in venture capital and so forth. You're hearing, I want to hear what you're hearing. There's a lot of talk in the media that there might be real business opportunities related to the UAE-Israeli peace agreement, which we didn't really see so much at the early stages of the Egyptian or Jordanian deals. What's your sense of whether this is a full normalization, the way people think of making peace? And what do you hear of inside the Israeli business community? Are they excited? Do they see opportunities?
Well, Joel, there is great excitement on both sides, Israeli business community, but also Emirates business community. And I can tell you just from my own private experience that in the last few days, I have received so many fillers and requests to engage with them. And we are going to have, unfortunately, because of the corona, we cannot really be flying yet, but Zoom is the way, just as the medium that we use now. And there is a great excitement, great curiosity. And everybody here understands, and also in the Emirates, that there is a great synergy, great compatibility between the two economies and also the peoples. You know, the peoples are very friendly, are peaceful people, and they like to engage. They like to exchange culture and, of course, business and technology for the benefit of everyone. And this is something which is very unique. And you rightly so mentioned Egypt and Jordan, with whom we had long, bitter conflict, including disputes on borders. This is not the case. We have never been an enemy of the UAE, quite the contrary. And together we can do great things.
How do you characterize this? Do you think this will be a more full normalization than we've seen with Egypt and Jordan? Do you think that this peace deal could potentially serve as a model of future peace treaties?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think that the region will see the benefits for the people of the UAE, the benefits for the people of Israel, and they would very much like to join. And the only reason that they have not joined so far was the veto by the Palestinians. And I think now, when President Trump changed the paradigm, no longer the Palestinians' veto holds. So all these countries, whether it's the UAE or Oman or Bahrain or Sudan and Morocco and many others, they realize that, well, they should take care of their own interests. So their people are better off in education, in medicine, in just standard of living. Why should they subject their own interests to some interests of the Palestinians, whose only interest is to destroy a country, Israel, and not to build one?
Well, and to clarify, because I believe this is true, but you can give me your own perspective, of course, that's what I want. I'm beginning to sort of separate out the Palestinian leadership under Mahmoud Abbas and his inner circle, and many in the Palestinian society who, the leadership, I agree, seems intransigent. Mahmoud Abbas seems like he wants to go into history as someone who never surrendered any of the maximalist claims for the Palestinian, mission. But there are many people, certainly the polls tell us, anecdotally, I think we see, there are some who agree with Abbas on that, but there are others who are saying, I think we'd like the $50 billion of investment that the Gulf states have offered to build factories, build water desalination plants, build electrical plants, build infrastructure, create 1 million new jobs, bring unemployment down. So I think we're seeing divisions within the Palestinian society. Do you agree with that? And do you think that there are Palestinian businesses that in theory could work together with Israeli businesses and the UAE?
Absolutely, Joel. And, businessmen are, I would say, the most rational people. And they really think straight and without any strings attached. They really want to benefit. And once they benefit, they want to benefit the people around them, whether it's employees, whether it's partners, and of course, more taxes to the government so infrastructure can be built. Business to business is the best foundation to build upon great relations, personal relations and country to country relationships. So the Palestinians, and they're great Palestinian business leaders who would love to do things together with Israel. And now if we bring the element of the UAE and Gulf countries, with their riches and their liquidity, so you can have a real, I would say, triangle where Israeli know-how and UAE finances can make projects in the Palestinian Authority, supply employment to the Palestinian Authority, and benefit all Palestinian people. I hope this will be the case. The only reason now it's not happening is because of the ban from the Palestinian authorities. If you talk to businessmen in the Palestinian Authority, they would love to have that model.
Can you see a scenario in which Israel should encourage, perhaps, maybe the $50 billion is not ready, but what if the Gulf states put $5 billion, just 10%, into just development between Israelis and Palestinians in Area C, the section of the West Bank or Judea and Samaria that is controlled by Israel, and that. What if we started to create a model between of what could happen and what could happen in the rest of Palestinian society? But at least I think Israel has the right, in theory, to help build more factories and development, Palestinian labor, creativity, ingenuity. Is that legally permissible? And would that be a good idea? I may be missing elements that I'm not sure of.
Not at all. That would be a very, very good idea. And, this may be the first time that the Palestinians, if I can use the metaphor, is getting the fish rods and not the fish to better themselves. Until now, unfortunately, they have been living on dough. Whether it's in Gaza, for instance. And Gaza is, unfortunately, now is controlled by radical Islamist jihadists, Hamas and all that. But what are they doing? They get dole and money from Qatar. In Area C of the Judea and Samaria, the West Bank, where there is freedom for innovation and for entrepreneurial, I would say, projects, we can do great things. And here is where the Palestinians can be proud people, as they should be, very competent people, very advanced, and so they can really take control of their own lives. They can really manage their own destiny by just giving them the basic tools, which is employment, projects, technology.
Well, I think these are fascinating times that we're living in, and I think it's intriguing that the Israeli business community and the UAE business community, as you're hearing it directly from your clients and business contacts, you're hearing a lot of excitement. I am not hearing it yet from the Palestinian business community. Maybe that's understandable, but I think what you and I are talking here is an interesting possibility. I'm not hearing anyone else talk about it yet, but the idea of a development investment fund that might help create a different model in Area C than in Areas A and B, not because we wouldn't want to see investment in all of the areas that the Palestinians want and currently control themselves, but it's just not possible. There's no openness among the leadership yet. Thank you so much for discussing this, the business climate. Let's watch how this goes. Let me ask you one last question. Have you ever been to the United Arab Emirates, or do you have any plans to go?
I unfortunately have not been there, but I do have plans to go, and now I have a few invitations from there. So definitely, I would love to go. I know you have great connections. I would love for us to go together.
That'd be wonderful. I think we're looking at a new day, and I agree with you that I hope Bahrain, Oman, perhaps Sudan, hopefully Morocco and others, and of course ultimately Saudi Arabia will be the big prize, as it were. We'll take things one day at a time. Layat, we say in Hebrew, right? Shweya, shweya in Arabic. One slowly, but this is a huge development. And Ambassador Ayalon, former Deputy Foreign Minister Ayalon, thank you for your insights.
Pleasure.